Okay, hello girls and welcome back to term 2. I hope you've had a good break, and I know this term is going to be a bit different than what you've ever experienced, but hopefully I can make it interesting and engaging. We can still get some prac squeezed into what we have to do. Okay, so I'm just going to go through quickly with you how I'm going to run assessment, both from last term and ongoing. I'm going to talk to you briefly about the plan for term 2. I'm also going to tell you what you need to do before we get into it. And also I've put up the work for today. Okie dokie, let's get started. So, notice a variation of assessment. So due to the coronavirus, the assessment of last term will now be as follows. So I'm still marking you based on your portraits. I'll look at your art diary if it is available. If not, I'll have to give you an estimate based on what I saw you do before the school shut down. I know a lot of you took your works home, so if you have your work at home, can you please send me a picture of it to my email address? Everyone should have my email. It doesn't have to be, let me start that again. It has to just be the portrait only. You don't have to worry about taking photos of your diary. Okay. If you can drop off your work to school, that would be great for me. If you can't do either a picture or drop it in, if there's something preventing you from doing that, please just send me an email as well and we can work something out. Okay, so the plan for term 2. This term we are looking at modernism as an art movement, or as an umbrella for lots of little art movements. Like last term, I will put the work on the hub. I will include practical activities this term, however, they won't form a part of your assessment. So what that means is this term I'm marking you based on a research essay that you will complete later in the term. It'll be based on the content covered in class and it will be due in week 9. So you don't have to stress about that. I will model it and I'll scaffold it and I'll give you examples. So don't stress about it too much yet, but I'm just saying this term, while there will be prac, you're not getting marked on it per se. It's more going to be based on your essay. Okay, let's keep going. So what you need to do, please organise the delivery of your work as soon as possible, either in the form or physically, if you can bring it to me into school, or you can take a photo of it and send it to my details. They are there. So please continue watching because I'm going to do a mini lesson for you for an introduction into modernism, the age of modern art. So this is a 100-year period that comprises of lots of different types of art making. So where I've put the little pen and paper icon down the bottom here, you should be able to see it. Can you please write down what's on the slide when I put that down? It's not on too many slides, but it's a good way for me to track what notes you are taking. So the title is An Introduction to Modernism. So what is modernism? The first thing to not do is don't confuse the word modern with today or new. Modernism is a term that was given to this period to try and show that they had updated old traditional forms of art. So it's not saying more, like we're not looking at modern times. So try not to get those confused. Okay, please write this down. What is an artistic movement? I'm sure you've all gone over this, but I thought it would be good to cover the basics. An artistic movement is a group of artists who agree on general principles of an artistic style. So an art movement does not have to do much with a date and time, except when it sort of emerged, meaning an artist today could still be identified as an impressionist or a cubist. So a movement is a group of people that sort of get together and decide that they're going to all paint using red. And for example, it's an example. And how they go about that is they exhibit together, they push it out into society, and they get a name branded for them, and that's considered a movement. And even today, some people might still be painting in red, but they weren't there when the original movement was created. So modernism is like an umbrella term of lots of little different artistic movements that happened over 100 years, but they're modern because they broke the tradition of pretty paintings like Girl with the Pearly Earring and the Mona Lisa. They're not realistic per se. Okay, so if you need to write that down, just pause the video, write it down, and then I'll continue on. So I'm not going to stop the video. Pause it, write it. Okay, so you need to write this down too. What is the modern art movement? Although there is no precise definition, the modern art movement refers to works produced in the 100-year period between 1870 and 1970. Typically, modern artists rejected previous Renaissance-based traditions in favour of experimentation. That's my favourite word. We love experimenting. So they used new materials, techniques, and they had all these different philosophical theories about how art should reflect the world. So it shouldn't be, art shouldn't be, for example, about religious ideology. They wanted to capture the everyday man. So they went out and painted painters like Van Gogh, for example. So entirely new types of art were developed during this period. So art that had never been seen, never been considered, never been created before was being created in these periods, and it caused a lot of controversy because people were like, that's not art. Anyway, we'll talk about that a bit later. Okay, so when did it begin? When they think that Claude Monet, so I don't know if we've touched on him, he was an impressionist. So they captured light using impressions or paint strokes on a canvas. We will go through that later on, the Impressionist movement, but they thought that the Impressionist movement was the first movement that broke from tradition. So it showed that artists were ready to break away from those pretty Renaissance-y, dramatic paintings. Okay, so can you please write this down as well? I'm running out of time. I've only got 15 minutes to finish this video, and I'm at 7:25. So, modern art is considered a rejection of traditional art forms. It saw a shift from the use of media, so photography was now a new thing. They tried collage, different types of architecture. Abstract art really boomed, and non-representational art, so art that didn't really have to be anything, and social and political transformation and non-conformity. So they looked at a lot of new things that were happening in society at those times as well. Okay, keep going. So what I'm going to get you to do is look at this figure. Many artists explore dreams, symbolism, and their personal iconography as a way to depict their experiences. So this is Cézanne's The Bather, and it captures a sense of ambiguity, and he sort of looks a little bit like he doesn't really know what he's doing with himself, which this slide says can be considered typical of the modern experience. So I want you to answer those two little questions there in your book. I didn't have the symbol. Oh no, sorry. Please write those down and answer them in your book. So there's this slide, and then there's this slide as well. So he actually painted this artwork from a photograph, which was really uncommon because photography was only so if this painting was done in 1860, 1885, photography was only sort of born around 1830s, 40s, and accessible to the general public in about the 1850s. So it's quite modern to paint from a photograph. Not now, but back then. So if you can write down a few things about those questions as well, that would be fantastic. So just analysing those artworks, and it doesn't have to be a paragraph, just a brief couple of sentences about those questions there. I think I'll end the slideshow here because I've only got a couple of minutes left. I also have put a few things on the hub for you to do. Please check the hub regularly. I'll put the links to these videos there, and I will check in with you all via Zoom. Okay, hopefully this was a good experience for you. And if you've got any questions, just shoot me an email or talk to me on Zoom. Okay, goodbye.